Hey guys, welcome to my first ever video like this. In this video I'll be breaking down how I did this project called Into the Future. Before I break it down for you guys, I want to tell you how my inspiration started for this particular project. So I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk these days, and everything in that game just inspires me a lot. So I wanted to create something that has a feel of Cyberpunk into it. So the colors, the neon signs and whatnot. And luckily in that week, William, if you don't know who he is, he's a Blender artist. He creates such an amazing pieces like short movies and others, and he's great. You should check him out. But anyway, on his Discord, he usually creates this challenge every week. So he gives out a prompt to everyone in his Discord. We have to challenge ourselves into creating something related to that prompt and upload it in his Discord. So luckily that week, the prompt was to create something related to neon, and that inspired me to take part in that challenge, and also makes me want to do this project even more. So that's the inspiration for this project. So let's get into Blender. So this animation is 15 seconds long, but it is actually a 3-second footage looped 5 times to make it 15 seconds. So in Blender, I rendered out 72 frames in 24 frames per second, which makes it 3 seconds long. So everything else is done in After Effects, like the rains, the splashes, and the looping, the glitch effects, and everything was done in After Effects. I will be showing you later in this video. Anyway, first of all, I wanted to get in the buildings first for the scene. I would normally model my own buildings if we can see the buildings itself, because if I were to take assets from others, it would look the same with other people, and I don't really like that. I would normally model my own buildings, but in this case I have an idea to have the buildings very less visible. The character is going to be more in focused, and the neon signs should play a huge part in this project. So I brought in buildings from Kit Bash, Cyberpunk pack, I think. I'm not sure which pack it's from. I think it should be Mini Cyberpunk pack. But I brought in a few buildings first to lay out the view of the camera, like this. And also another building right closer to the camera itself. Hang on. Camera is right here, to give some foreground element to it. So these are the basic buildings from Kit Bash. They are very high detailed. Textures are also high quality textures. It's just amazing. But however, it did not come with this emission. I wanted to create sort of neon-y look, so I swap out the texture for these characters here for an emission texture that makes it glowy. And also I duplicated this building in the background and changed the emission texture into another color. So this is a blue one and this is a purple. Yeah, I didn't rotate or anything because I wanted this part of the building right there. And yeah, after that I look at it and it's not enough neon. So what I did was I brought in a lot of pictures from Unsplash and assigned them as emission textures, and yeah, it looks nicer now. So I want to talk a little bit about how I made these textures, like these hologram looking textures. So let's actually just solo this out. So the way I made it is fairly simple, but it works as if it was a hologram. This is the original texture. Let's hide this for a while. So this is the original texture from Unsplash. I cut it a little bit so it only focuses on the guy. I ran it through hue, saturation, and value and change some color settings a little bit, and then ran it through emission. Now it's glowing, but it doesn't look anything like a hologram. It's just too flat. So I mix it with a transparent shader. Now it looks a little bit see-through if I have something in the background. Yeah. So now it looks transparent and you can see through it. So it gives a little bit of that hologram vibe to it, but that's not enough. So I ran it through another mix shader, which is mixing in the previous shader with another transparent shader. But this time, for the factor, it is using the wave texture. The wave texture looks like this. So it has lines horizontally across the plane. So the black and white values are telling which part is transparent and which part is the previous shader, which is the hologram texture. But if you look at this carefully, it is very uniformed and very, very computer generated looking. So I added a mix RGB node in the middle of the factor output and the wave texture output. No, the factor input and the wave texture output. And as for the factor, I added in a Musgrave texture. This is how it looks like. And when we mix it together, now the lines are not uniformed anymore. It looks staticky, and it's actually how I wanted it. So now this is how the hologram looks like, and now it feels great. But since it's closer to us, I wanted more detail to it. So I went for an easy route and just duplicated that particular hologram. So if you right here, I duplicated it, and from a camera view, it looks quite fine. So another thing I did was to add another wave texture, which looks like hang on, I'm gonna have to go into timeline, which looks like this. A huge black line is just acting as a huge black line. Also mixed with transparent shader, and across the timeline I animated the location of that black line, so it's wiping across the screen just like so, which is great. For others, like for instance this particular image, for all the pictures I went the same way in creating these textures. I basically just took the original image texture and ran through hue, saturation to adjust the colors, of course, and made it emission texture and mix it with transparent. But this time I am using the black values of the image into the factor. So I'm using those black values and making them transparent. So anything that's black will be transparent like this. That's how I did. That's how I did for all the images here, like for these as well. So after that, I wanted to add a character in front of the camera, which will be the main focus. So this is how I did the character animation. The character, I got it from 3D Scan Store. I got the visualization characters mega bundle, so it includes both the male characters pack and the female characters pack, and I brought in the most suiting one and the mocap data from Ian Hubert's Idols. This is from his Patreon, so If you're his supporter, you will get this for free to download. What I did was I brought in the most suiting pose. I would say this one. These are all animated. So yeah, this is very cool. The most suiting one. This suits the most with what I have here. Not necessarily exactly the same, but it will work exactly how we want to. So I'm just gonna copy this and then paste it right here. Now, if you look at it carefully, this is kind of smaller, so I increase the size a little bit and then line it up like this. Right now it's not exactly aligned, so I'm gonna rotate this a little bit, and then as for the head, it's not aligned. We want the head to act more natural, so we're gonna place it like this. A lot of tweaking when I was doing this project, but this is just a rough idea. I'm just showing you the rough idea. So this looks pretty good to me. So I select this and also shift selected the armature and Control P. And under armature deform, you will see with automatic weight. So after I click that, it will process it a little bit. And then if you go into the timeline, you will see, if you play it, it will look quite good. And it's very natural because everything is from motion captured data. So this is amazing. That's how I did the character basically, and then brought into my scene. So after that, we already have some animation, some life to it after that animation. Let's actually grab timeline right here. So for the camera as well, I wanted to give it some life to it. So what I did is use Ian Hubert's Camera Shakeify add-on. Use the close-up preset with some influence and scale toned down a little bit, and that added a little bit of life to it. And after that, I played around with the animation for this. I also animated it blinking before it actually appears and also disappear. But in the final video, I added a glitch effect that actually hid the blinking effect that I added, which I kind of regret adding. I regret adding the glitch effect for the looping, but it had to be done so that it looks kind of flawless when it comes to looping. But yeah, after that, I added some light to lit the entire scene. First of all, I added the volume, which is a huge solid around here, if you can see. With well, the shader is actually just a volume scatter with 0.07 density. So yeah, this is how the scene looks like right now. It's too dark. You can barely see anything else in the scene, which looks kind of cool, but I don't like it. I want us to be able to see what's going on in the background as well. So I added a huge light above the entire scene, which is a color of pink, I guess. Hope that's the right color. And yeah, with 100,000 watts to be able to light the entire scene. After that, I thought it's not entirely, I'm not entirely sure about the lighting, so you know, I thought there would be some street lights and others coming from below the building, so I added 2 more area lights that made the entire scene pop a little. That's my final lighting. After that, I added a few wires, and they are also animated if you look at them closely. I just animated the rotation of those wires with noise modifier, and that's how I got this. And after that, that's basically it. My render settings, I use cycles with 200 samples, no denoising. I use the denoising from the compositing. From here, I turn on the denoising data from here. And yeah, I rendered them out as JPEG. So if I can show you right here, these are the render frames. I rendered out till 72 frames, so it will have 3 seconds in footage. I also rendered out the mist so that we can create depth of field, some mist effect later on in the post. But I think I didn't get to do the mist effect, but I still did the depth of field a little bit. But yeah, this is what I did in Blender. Let's hop into After Effects and show you the post-processing. Hey guys, so now we're in the After Effects. This is the final render that I got, just raw from Blender. This is how it looks like. And not gonna lie, it looks pretty good, but we are missing out blooms, everything. So first of all, I added the rain effect first. The rain is just basically rain effects on a black screen, and I added it on top of my render and set it as screen. And I used the mist pass as the opacity as a luma matte. This is the mist pass. Well, this is the original mist pass, but I tweaked the levels a little bit so that we can get the black and white values of the foreground and everything in the background. So by using that, we created this rain effect, which is just in the background like this. So now it doesn't make sense because there are no splashes in the foreground. So the way I add it is using this splash animations. Let's actually turn off. Just turn off the masks for a bit. These are the splashes. I lay them out nicely and then use the mask. We could do something I could have done differently and more easily by using the ID pass from Blender and just selecting that. But I didn't want to go back into Blender and render out the ID pass, so I just maxed it out and keyframed the edges so that it lines up nicely throughout the entire footage. So after that's done, I added splashes to this ground as well, and this is how this is how they look like with the splashes. After that, I added the emission comp. The way I did it is I brought in the original render like this and added levels so we can only see the emission or the glowing things, and adjusted the brightness and contrast of it. So yeah, it's a little bit more it's a little bit brighter. And yeah, I added that on top of my footage with screen blending mode, and also added glow to the entire thing. So now it has some bloom effect. And yeah. After that, I added the camera lens blur. Just a subtle blur. I'm using the default camera lens blur effect from After Effects, and using the mist pass as the blur map, I created this effect. So everything out of focus is blurred out, including the rain. That's why I added the rain first before I messed with depth of field. After that, I added the fog. The fog layer is just a solid, but using mist pass as a lumen matte pass, or whatever it's called. And I brought that in with the screen blending mode and reduced the opacity a little bit. So if I go into fit, without the fog it looks like this, and with the fog it looks a little bit more distinguished, some of the structures, I feel like, because it adds some sort of depth to it, I think. But I don't know, but it looks better, so that's why I did that. And after that, I added edge softness. So this, I created another adjustment layer, and I added the Gaussian blur, but I mask it out with the Eclipse. So everything out of this radius will be blurred out. If you look at it, if I blur more, you'll see outside of this circle radius is blurred out. But I just use a subtle blur, 2.8, and then after that I added a lens distortion. It's just a little bit, very subtle. If you look at the corners, you will see it changes a little bit. So there's the distortion. Yeah, after that it's basically done with the compositing. So we went into, so after that's done, I created a new composition, and I looped them for 5 times, so it's 15 seconds. Also color graded a little bit. So let me show you for everything. So this is the raw render, and I added the exposure levels, and I added lumetri color and adjusted some of the settings, and also color balance, and added some grains to it. So I looped that 5 times and added glitch effect on top of the entire comp. Every time there's a transition between 2 clips, I added the glitch effect, which actually covered up the blinky effect that I had going on in the original render. So if you look without the glitch, it has a blinky effect, but it covered up that, and it looks kind of weird just popping out of nowhere. But I don't know, it's okay, I guess. But it's something to keep in mind for my next renders. This glitch effect is just comped in together at the right timings to create this. I also changed the color of the glitch. I didn't like the original green color, so use hue of it. And for the final comp, everything, all of the sounds are from Epidemic Sound, and I brought in that footage, the comp which has the glitch and the 5 looping footages, and added Magic Bullet looks as a final touch. Let me show you what I've done in there. So I added diffusion. Let's turn everything off for a while. So diffusion gives some bloom effect for the bright parts, and added haze and flare, added lens distortion again, chromatic aberration, and some shutter streak. Very subtle shutter streak. Yeah, after that I just added the Oh, yeah, I added this rain dripping effect too. You can see very subtle. Let me actually have the opacity up again. This on top of everything, change the blending mode into screen and blurred it a little bit and change the opacity down to 16%, so it's barely visible but it's there, and added these bunch of sound effects on top of it. So everything was done in After Effects. I didn't go into Premiere or DaVinci, just made everything here. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video and hope you learn a thing or two from this. I hope to do more videos like this in the future, breaking down, or even a commentary video in the future. So yeah, subscribe and stay tuned. Yeah, thanks again for watching.